Today's guest is Paul Bienek. Paul joins us from Baralaba, so not quite Rockhampton, but Central Queensland nonetheless, for a podcast titled Rockhampton with Nyree Johnson. Paul has spent over 5 decades serving the region through his family-run business, Baralaba Motors and Engineering, and for 56 years he provided RACQ roadside assistance, often starting before sunrise to help stranded drivers across Central Queensland. His family has deep roots in the region, and Paul himself is known as a principled, easygoing gentleman with a remarkable life story. And he's widely regarded as an icon of the region, and your contribution, Paul, to your community and country life is both enduring and inspiring. And it's an absolute privilege to have you on the podcast today. And I thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me.
Well, thank you, Nora. It's a pleasure speaking with you. As I said before, I've never spoken about myself at all.
This is your time to shine. Your time to shine. But I do have a bit of a curly question for you first before we really get stuck into the good stuff. And I'm curious, if you could be an expert in absolutely anything at all in the world, whether it be odd, obscure, or even unachievable, what would it be and why?
Nora, I've thought about this a bit since you sent it to me, and I'm far too much a practical person to be stepping outside of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I say, I'm much more a practical person, and I can't even put my mind to an obscure thing. I'm far too practical.
So what practical topic could you be an absolute expert in that you're not quite an expert in today?
What I've got to say is, and the saying has been around for a long, long time, he's a jack of all trades and master of none.
Yeah. It wouldn't be amazing.
And so that's what you have to be in the bush.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we through my serious working life, we prided ourselves in our workshop with taking on almost anything and everything, and by and large achieved a good result for our customers.
Yeah.
I dare say that's where it comes from. Jack of all trades.
You have to be a bit of a unique mechanic to work in a country town, don't you? So you do really have to be a jack of all trades.
Absolutely, Nori. And you do have to be able to, well, you have people's confidence, and they say, well, take it up and fix it. And so that's how it starts. So it started with that as a young lad home from boarding school, and Dad would have it no other way other than have me in his workshop.
Yeah, wow.
And so that's where it all started, Nori. And my thoughts were always to do with other people. Absolutely. I've done that all of my work, and it's been very rewarding. So that's what I like about the whole thing.
Yeah, wonderful. Oh, I love that. So talking like going to boarding school, that's a bit of a shift, but tell us a little bit about the early days. So those key moments through while you were growing up, and, what that family life was like, who in your family made a significant contribution to helping to shape who you are today.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, as I say, home from boarding school in 56 or something like that. Had to go back into the workshop with Dad. But so from there on in, the responsibility started to happen. And I think it might have been, say, the early 60s, Baralaba got to a stage where, certainly count everybody in Baralaba, and I did. I think I got to 480. That's in the mid-50s.
Yeah.
Things were in Baralaba that needed to be protected, the hospital and the bank and the ambulance and the storekeepers and the butcher shop and the baker, all those things. And so the older business people, and Dad included, must have lobbied somewhere to get a fire brigade now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was asked to be fire chief. And of course I said yes. So I think I was the second youngest fire chief in Queensland in those days. And so from there on in, I assumed an enormous, for myself, an enormous responsibility, Nyree. I had the whole town relying on me for their safety. And
responsibility.
And that was a big ask. Not that I promoted myself to do it, but I was asked. My probably early days in Baralaba. Like I was born in Baralaba in 39.
Oh, wow. So you really have been there from the start.
Absolutely. I've only went away to boarding school for 2 years.
Oh.
But anyway, so I assumed some responsibility right back then. And as I say, my community relied on us fire brigade boys to protect them. And so it all started then.
And so was Baralaba Motors your family business before you took it on?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, wow. When was it established by your family?
Dad, well, I think it goes back to pretty much, Dad was a dam seeker in his early days. He was Polish his parents were Polish, but he got to Australia in about 1927. And I'll tell you what, we are so glad that he met Mum. Absolute, really, really good parents. And so he found his way up to here, worked over in Mulgilly around the Monto area, came to Baralaba as a contractor, dam sinking contractor, and away he went. And my grandparents obviously wanted a dam done, and that's where he met Mum. And so from there on in, it started. So there's photos of myself with Mum and Dad out in the bush in a tent, and he decided now he's got a family here, he better consolidate himself to get to town. And so he did in 1939. I was in Baralaba, and so there, our business grew from there. And he worked so hard, and he had to prove well, looking back on it now, I think that he took it upon himself to prove a point. And he certainly did. There was 5 girls along with myself as the eldest boy, and the youngest boy was Roddy. So that was 7 in our book.
Yeah, wow.
And so Roddy was one of the apprentices that I'd taken on board after Dad had passed. But unfortunately, he had a fatal car accident about 6-7 miles out of town.
Very sorry.
That really put a bend in our road. Absolutely put a bend in our road. And that was in 1980, 81. But Dad had passed in 71, I think. And so I was here all as a family, Mum and the children.
Yeah, wow. And what school did you go to, boarding school? Like what town was that?
I went to Brisbane, Brisbane Boys College.
Okay. And what year did you do there? Was it like 11 and 12 or?
Yes, I think equivalent to junior those days. I must admit I didn't do much good, so Dad said he would insist that I'd have been probably too homesick. But so he did insist. He sent me down to Auntie Grace and Uncle Dan's place in Rockhampton for 12 months.
Okay.
To get a school.
Yeah.
But anyway, I come good in the end, so that's all that matters.
You definitely did come good in the end, and you're, such a key player of the Baralaba community and a business owner for so long as well. Some of these questions I didn't pre-warn you about, but who looks after your workshop now? Who looks after your workshop now?
Well, actually I do.
You still do? Yep.
But I don't do much, Nyree. That's my men's shed up there now.
Build your own men's shed during your entire life.
And I tell you what, you'd be surprised. Well, no, you probably wouldn't if you knew country people, country community people. They really rely on you for so much. I've been a justice of peace 45 years or more, and you'd be surprised just how many signatures are needed by our small town. And what a pleasure to be able to do it. Otherwise they have to go somewhere else. So it's part of our community commitment, Nyree.
Absolutely.
Even then, I was asked if I would like to be. I didn't want to be, but I was asked. I said, yeah.
Oh, I love that. What sort of other roles have you done for the community, like whether they be formal or informal with, the fire brigade and the justice of the peace and business?
Well, the fire brigade, I think, was 27 or so years. And, we had some really ripper experiences there in our early days, but we had some fires and we saved places, and one place in particular, our main store here, there was a cafe store, and there was probably only about 4 feet between the two buildings. So the cafe had a a fire in the back out the kitchen, and we saved the shop, saved the big store, and we also saved the front half of the cafe. I mean, we were pretty slippery in those days. I mean, our fire crew, we were pretty good, and so we had some good gear as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was our principal saving, yes, and good for our community.
Yeah, absolutely. Was in Baralaba, did they have one of those, the big bells that ring to call essentially all of the volunteer firefighters together when they were needed, like before the days of pages, of course? The reason I ask is because I lived in Longreach for just 2 short years,
Okay.
and I knew quite a few of the volunteer firefighters, and
Yes.
this bell would go off in the main street of the town, even though we had pages when I lived there. And I just wondered, how did you notify everybody that you needed help? We had to rally the troops, essentially.
Like in those days, in the 60s and up through the 70s, like Baralaba was busy, Nyree. We had this mob of kids at school. We had to have teachers. We had our ANZ Bank, which was operational in those days. And so we always had a full crew as far as fire brigade goes. So if they were schoolies and bank johnnies and the local fellas around. So we always had a crew.
Mm.
The siren in the dead of night wakes everybody up. And you can imagine the people who come to the scene and who offer to help.
Yeah,
And
that was the word I was missing, siren. I'm calling it a bell, but that's what I meant.
yes, yeah.
Yes.
And some of the experiences we've had with people who get overzealous, and you have to say to them, look, one of the crew were here, let him do that job. If you didn't say it nicely or diplomatically, you didn't need to get people offside either. So in actual fact, everybody helped with everything that went on, and particularly the fire brigade. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful.
I'll tell you just one little story.
Yeah, of course.
When the navvies had a camp up the other side of the station master's house, and they were pretty primitive those days, and you'd have seen them in Longreach. They were pretty much just a 3-ply shell, just a 3-ply shell, with two rooms together, one a kitchen and one a sleeping quarter. Anyway, Sunday afternoon, the siren goes. There's a fire in the navvy's hut, and so the boys turned out there with their brand new fire engine and so forth, and they hit it with a full force of water and just blew it to pieces. Just dismantled it. It collapsed.
Wow.
Like, it was funny, and we still laugh about it. But the fellow was in there was such a happy-go-lucky person. He was lucky to be out of it.
Mm.
The whole thing, it was full on. You know, it was a fire, and we had to get it out. And you can imagine standing back with a like a 3/4 inch, 1 inch hose, passing full pressure at about 60, 70 pound pressure, a fair bit of force in it. Anyway, we laughed about it later on, but we didn't save his. Well, yes, we did save his plate, but it wasn't all together. It was like a flat pack on the grid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, no. And I must say we had some bigger fires. One end of store on the other end of town. That was too far gone. We couldn't save that. That was rather a blow for Baralaba, but it never got rebuilt. That was some of the experience of fire brigade. So that was our protection phase of Baralaba, and the fire brigade is still here. And nowadays struggling to make it through, Nyree. You know, there's young people are just not about anymore. But my generation is just about gone. And
yes. It is sad that I know a lot of the rural fireys are struggling for
Yeah.
volunteer numbers,
Yeah.
and those who are still volunteering, they're just working so hard to
do the
work to do.
and even now, I mean, this generation that came on after us, one of those fellows I know particularly, he was chief, and he's past the age limit now, and they've asked him to retire.
Wow.
But he goes back voluntarily. There are certain boundaries that nobody else understands other than those in the community that need to be protected.
It's such a significant responsibility too, to play a key role in protecting the community, and a community the size of Baralaba. where everybody essentially knows everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. So tell me a little bit about, like, I'm guessing you were always destined to be at Baralaba Motors and Engineering. So it feels a little bit odd to ask what inspired your journey because the answer is probably your dad. But is that kind of the path that you were heading down and you were happy to head down that path?
Yeah, no, well, I didn't want to do anything else. And Dad would have been ever so pleased that I decided, well, this is what I want to do. But mind you, when I was only a little fella, he bought me, kept on adding to a Meccano set. You remember the old Meccano sets?
Yes, I do.
Right. I ended up with the biggest Meccano set you could buy.
Wow.
It just kept adding on to it. And we were making things. We were making things. And yes, I guess that was the catalyst of it all. The ability to do it, and I suppose the reward, the ability to do it, and the reward to see it, and know that you had a fairly big part in doing it. And in our early time, we really started to get interested. My mate and I built a boat, steel boat.
A boat?
Yes.
Did you successfully go in the boat on the river?
Yes, we were ever so pleased that when we put it in the water without the engine, it sat perfectly flat.
Wow.
So anyway, so the mate and I built that in the back of our workshop. Many hours that we put into that, but it was all steel, and it was a new sport for Baralaba. Nothing to do with water at all. But prior to that, in the drought in the early 60s, 64, the river dried up, pretty much dried up. I don't know, 300 or 400 yards. Might have been half a mile, I don't know. But anyway, it was low enough that we could get into there with our tinny boats and take the timber out in the bottom, because we always planned that we'd do something as part of the boat building thing. So we got the timber out. We burned it. We got some wonderful photos of one bloke in particular. He's an absolute gentleman, but he would have to be in everything that happened around the place. So Dougie brings down his chainsaw, barefooted, out standing up on the log with a chainsaw, cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and cut this timber up so we could pick it up, stack it, and burn it.
Oh, wow.
So that got us really started. We had a safe area of water to ski, the safest piece of ski area on the Dawson River. It was really, really good. And then when the weir job started in 1975, I think it was, about mid-70s, that put a new water level in it, and the irrigation water supply at the time took all the timber out to the new level. So it was still a safe piece of water. And so that got us going. We could do things, and we taught everybody in Baralaba to ski. We were the most patient, well, you say, teenagers you'd ever come.
Yeah, wow.
They all learned to ski, and it was very rewarding. It was a community thing. We had big kids and we had little kids. Everybody wanted to ski behind. Did I tell you what we called it?
No.
No, we called it Hootenanny. HOOTNANNIE.
Yeah, wow.
And painted red.
Name.
I think that was something that my friend, my mate, I don't know whether it came out of a song or something. Anyway, that was the name. We clicked onto that.
Yeah.
So that got us going. And of course, that was the start of the water sports. And of course, we bought 2 more boats after that. Old Hootenanny didn't have enough power, and so we got into bigger boats, and we ended up barefoot.
How long did it take you to build the boats?
I don't know. Wouldn't have mattered if it would have taken 12 months. My mate's father was the mine manager at the time, and so he had access to all good stuff. And Dad had the workshop. We just capitalised that, you see.
Oh, gotta love that creative thinking, and just no distractions back in those days, I guess.
Oh, no. See,
social media and technology.
Time was ours. We weren't committed to anything, and of course, all that changed as time went by.
Yeah.
But the just talking about the weird job, it was irrigation and water supply in those days. And the fellow that was in charge of the works engineer here, he said, is there anything we can do for you? I said, in fact, there is. I was president of the P&C at the time.
Of course you were.
Yeah, we had 3 girls going to school, and the boss meddled in creating the presence of. And so I said, yes, of course. He said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, we got no room down here for kids to play. So down sort of south of the school, when I was a lad, there was a family used to ride their horses to school, coming about 7 mile, I suppose. And so they'd put their horses down in the horse paddock. Now, the horse paddock was not used anymore. And so that's what we turned into the oval. So community-wise and some gear that the irrigation and water supply had, we shifted about 3,000 yards of dirt at the top of the bank out. We put it down at the bottom towards the billabong, and that is their recreation and area today. And that was a big project for us.
What a story. And it still stands today. That's awesome.
Yes.
When was your wife a Baralaba girl?
Well, that's another.
Did you bring her into the town?
Yeah, no, that's the story. Her parents came to Baralaba and he was ambulance superintendent, and they had one daughter. And the boys around town got to know that this chicky baby was coming in on the railroad. And we all lined up. Yeah, we did. We lined up over there. Had to have a sticky beak. But I married the same girl in 1962.
Wow, that's awesome. That's such a good story. So you were the lucky pick.
Yeah, no. And I keep reminding her of that. She's so lucky she found me.
She wasn't the one lined up waiting to catch a glimpse. So
No, we just couldn't help it. It's like not fairly scarce around here.
oh, that's so funny. So we've spoken a little bit about living in Central Queensland and how unique it is to live in a country town, particularly Baralaba, but deep down in your soul, within every being that you are, what does community contribution mean to you? So yes, you protect your community, absolutely, and you've served the P&C and you've been a justice of the peace and you've fixed pretty much everything. But what does it actually mean to you, and how does it make you feel?
Nyree, as I said, it's reward. The fact that you can do things for people that they can't do themselves, they need help to navigate their way through it and so forth. But my next big thing, which helped me no end, was that I was down the back of the shop building a silo. And at the time, one of our councillors had sold his property, and there was a vacancy. It never crossed my mind I'd be even think about that. But he was the chairman of the Shire then, and another councillor from around Baralaba came down to the back of the shop, and his name was Alpha Rook, an absolute ripper person. Alf said, I want to talk to you. Yeah, okay. So we got into it about 15 or 20 minutes, and I said, Alf, he asked me to come on to council, and I said, no way in the world, I just got too much on. So he persevered with me for about another 10 or 15 minutes, I suppose, and then he looked at me seriously and said, I'll see you in my office at 2:30.
Wow, no choice for you.
And got myself tidied up and whatever, and I was in his office at 2:30, and I was therefore sworn in as a councillor for Division 3. And I remained in as a councillor, and towards the end of my time, 2008, I think, I was deputy mayor for 2 terms, but very early in the piece also, chairman of the Banana Shire was also chairman of the Gladstone Harbour Board. And I'd been in the council about 4 years, and he said to me one day, I want you to come over to Gladstone and sit on the board, on the Port Authority, on the Harbour Board. So it was another job. And of course I said yes.
Oh, of course you did.
And that was just the most rewarding time. We saw that, like the development of Gladstone into a 5 million ton port to a 30 million ton. Things happened in Nyree, and it was such an eye-opener that it proved to me that if you move in the right circles and you know the right people, and you introduce, you can get things done. as far as my community thing was concerned, council and the Port Authority just reinforced what I could do for my community.
Mm.
And as a reward, just on the southeast of town, the fellow there had his own little light plane and airstrip.
Mm-hmm.
Now that was used by RFDS until one time the RFDS pilot says, no, we're not landing in Baralaba. So that was devastating, because the councillor that came down the back with the chairman, it was him that needed to be flown out. And I thought to myself, this does not need to happen in Baralaba. There was two roads out of Baralaba, one going to Rannis and the other one going up to Mara, and there was a connecting road in the middle. It's about 2 mile or so, and us boys called it Lover's Lane. I'd said to council at one stage, I've got it written down here, history, 2002. Council, I've approached the landowners on either side of Lover's Lane. They will sell us a portion of land to make it legal width.
Mm-hmm. And
so from there on in, with a fair bit of community, you can imagine, fellas that lived on the western side of the Dawson, Baralaba, right on the Dawson River here. Those that lived on the western side, one of the blokes, Peter Roach was my name. He said, "Don't worry about the fence, Nikki. We'll get the place." Mm-hmm. So we fenced 5 miles of fence. Anyone in town who could afford a coil of barbed wire did so. They had a fencing contract from his mate that stood every post, and then another neighbour there with a land plane. He cut the top off a bit of a slope and levelled it out for us. And so we established a 1,200 metre sealed pit with lights on it, airstrip.
Wow.
That was absolutely magic.
It is a huge community contribution.
Absolutely.
Like, to bring a whole community together, to help everybody work together, to, donate resources, time, equipment. That's amazing.
And so, as I said earlier, I was never out of my station, Nyree. I was asked to do it. It's not unlike when the health department decided that our hospital was too old, et cetera, et cetera. So they decided they were going to close it. Well, so we put on a bit of a show, and fortunately, we got the ear to the politicians, and we had a new building built.
Right. I
was asked to be part of the community advisory network, and so I was the chairman of that advisory group. Every organisation in town was not obligated, but they were asked if they wanted to put a member on that community network. Anyway, at the end of the day, that happened. We established I think it's a $12 million job, our current medical centre in Baralaba. Yeah. So that was another, not so much a community thing, but I mean, the community really objected about its closure. I mean, as you would, like the mine was here. Mount Morgan Limited established the mine here to get coal for their smelters in Mount Morgan. So, it was the base. It was the basic thing for Baralaba. Get away was going to be a really, really severe job. Anyway, we stuck with it and got the job done.
There are so many huge achievements of yours across your lifetime. It's really hard for me to ask what's your biggest, what's the biggest achievement that you've done in your life or that you're most proud of? Because I can imagine your long list of things. It's going to be really hard to just pick one, but go ahead and pick many if you want.
Well, I mean, and it even starts from the most trivial things. A mate of mine has got a dozer. He's an earth-moving contractor, and he happened to have his dozer working down there cleaning up the sawmill site. And I said, by the way, when you finish there, come down to the back of the hospital and push up a helipad. That happened.
Wow.
The Don at the time, the director of nursing, she was most distressed that we were putting this on her property. And I'd said to her, without mentioning names, you go upstairs and we will make this happen. And it's just being used today, Nyree. Our time here, right through from the 50s, when we started as fire chief, the community was behind all of the things. The hospital was opened in 2011, but I'd had the benefit of being able to serve the community more by being a councillor
Mm.
and a JP for 40 odd years or 45 years.
Mm.
It's a community thing.
It is, yeah.
And I'll tell you another one. The council decided during my time that I'd asked about a water treatment plant. Well, the hospital was there, and you can imagine the dirty water in the doors, and we're only running on tank water. The obvious thing was to get a water. Anyway, a petition went around town that if this plant was to cost more than 400,000, we didn't want it.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to the Shire clerk, just give me that list of names. Nearly everyone in Baralaba signed it except me. Give me that list of names, and we will build the water treatment. That happened not.
Your list is too long. I can't ask you to pick one. That's significant. And I can imagine the people that live in that community with you, many of them have the same thoughts.
It was the right thing to do, Nyree, but everybody was on side. And I tell you what, we wouldn't go back to untreated water now for quid.
No, definitely not. Yeah. So what do you think is, what's the most meaningful lesson that you've had in your life out of every experience you've had, good, bad, not so great? What's a really key lesson that you really live your life by?
Really the most significant thing was part of the certainly the lead up. I mean, the town put on a pretty fair show here when the government says they're going to close the hospital.
Mm.
And I say, like a $12 million job. And we managed to retain that. Now, that's absolutely good for Baralaba. I've just got staff, like everybody else knows. I mean, staffing is a fair sort of a problem. But the hospital is here. As a matter of fact, Alison is up there now, in there now. She has early stages of dementia. Cruel Nyree. Place is there for us.
It is. And it's there because you've helped to ensure that it's there.
And I suppose that's good, and also our water treatment plant is encourages people to come to town and stay. Everything is here. The comments that we get back from people who talk about Baralaba, they hold us in quite high regard as a community, as people who are receptive to others and so forth. We've managed to put the right stuff in here and look after it and appreciate it by everybody. It's pretty hard to nail, but I'd say probably the biggest thing was certainly the establishment of our hospital.
And I can imagine there were a lot of lessons along the way as well. Like you learn from different people and different experiences, and then different jobs, of course, that you've done as well.
Well, as I said earlier on, I really had the absolute privilege of working with people who could get things done, and so that rubbed off on me a little, Nyree. And I feel good about that. And it's even a signature as a JP or a qualified JP these days. But even a signature, how grateful people are just to be able to get it signed here without going elsewhere to do it. It's the things that matter.
Yeah.
Heaps of small things that matter just as much as one big thing.
Yeah, that's right. The small things sometimes matter more than those big things. Because those things are so frequent, and in isolation, you think they're just little things, really, but that they compound together, and it's a big impact.
Well, and then with Baralaba as it was with 450, 500 people, so there were kids that needed to play football and cricket and so forth, and so up at the sports ground up there, the old sheds were fairly dilapidated, and that was during my time of council as well. Put it to, or asked if I'd be chairman of that.
Let me guess what you said. Yes.
Yes. And so we made it happen, Nyree. We made it happen. And that was round about the time that the weir was being built. We got on very, very well with the contractor down there who did the concrete for the weir. He had the gear to do the floor of our complex. And so it with lot of community help. So that's good things for Baralaba.
Very good things for Baralaba. I can imagine that town is in a much better spot because of, your contribution and the contribution of everyone in the community over all of these years.
And it all became just a part of being here, Nyree, absolutely.
It almost leads perfectly into my next question, because I'm curious to know, what keeps you going every single day? Sometimes community work can be quite hard and it can be quite challenging, but you get up every day, you keep doing your thing, you keep going to your men's shed, well, your business, but we'll call it a men's shed. What drives you to keep doing that?
I guess I can still get things done, Nyree. I mean, this community is all that I'm here for. I live and breathe Baralaba, and there's no better place in the world than right here. And so things that are happening now that could never ever been thought of for everyone here, that's certainly my generation, can look at it and say, well, that's just part of our era. I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm still fit enough to be part of it, even if it's only verbally or maybe guidance. But it's still nice to be part of it. To really lock in the community thing. The same thing with our aged care unit. I was asked to be the chairman of our aged care group, and of course I said yes.
I can imagine there's not a single person who asked you to be involved that ever got the answer no.
We had the perfect piece of land up there beside the showground. The fellow who owned it, quite ill, and he said to me early in the piece, can I do anything for you? And so sowed the seed with the land. So he gave us the land, put our aged care units on.
Wow.
We had community contributions to that, government assistance, and one of our community fellows was very well respected in the RSL movement, Returned Soldiers movement, and so he got us told us some money from there, and so we established a 4-unit aged care system with like an admin centre in the middle of it. And at my time they've added a recreation centre to it. So that's another thing that happened for Baralaba.
That's so kind of that gentleman to pass on the land for that use.
Yeah. No, he was a tough man, but his heart was in the right place when he said, "Is there something I can do for you?" And I appreciated that.
Yeah.
So we had to move fairly quickly to get that fixed up. But from there on in, we developed our aged care.
Yeah, that's wonderful. The community of Baralaba sounds like the most amazing place. I've only ever camped there or passed through there. Definitely haven't spent as much time as many of the community members in the town. But it sounds like such a lovely place, and it's so close to Rocky as well, Central Queensland. So we're all under the one umbrella.
Yes. No, it has come a long way since the old dirt streets. They're bitumen these days, as they should be. But we've grown to be a very, very solid community. And I just really, really hope that the generations who are coming on can maintain and hold it together for us.
And is there a little bit of mentoring happening in that space to make sure that that's established, or is that still in progress?
Well, yes, you could probably say yes. You'd have to say yes. I mean, but we've also got to understand, the generation that's here, that they are quite different what we were when we were their age. Absolutely quite different. Like these kids, I say kids, but they're poor. Most of them have taken on their parents' property and so forth. But they've got a few irons in the fire, and unfortunately, we don't have enough people in town. There's none of, you're not employed at the school or the hospital. It's pretty much what but and so it's going to be hard for them. But I'm hoping that they can hold it all together and keep it as a rural town as we've built it over many years.
And it's quite special. I can imagine it's quite special to, 1939 to 2025 to live and breathe Baralaba your whole life. And you've seen it. You've seen the whole transition of that town over this time.
There's one bank Johnny in particular who came to Baralaba, and he was just a different person. And many years later, he wrote to me and said and thanked me for what for the community's acceptance of him being here. He ended up being involved in most things.
Mm-hmm.
He was the most uncoordinated fellow you'd ever come across. He just wrote a glowing, like a report of his time and school teachers at the time. Those that stayed here for a few years all left us with such a fond memory. And I think that's the sort of culture that develops in most rural towns.
Absolutely agreed. So I have one more question for you, Paul, and I'm wondering if you could give one piece of advice to the next generation and the generation, like those who are coming along after us or after yourself, young ones, older ones, what would that bit of advice be?
Well, there are so many things that are happening outside, and some of the spin-offs from what they learn from others can be brought back here, and that's what we've done. We've been able to do that, and I'm hoping that whilst we can't generate unless we get a population explosion, but to be able to look after it. So we need to absolutely value what we have and just keep our community involved, in which they are. Unfortunately, we've had the most serious fire, and it destroyed the hotel. And I was saying to one of the RACQ fellows a couple of years ago, when I come home from school, Dad didn't mind going to the pub, but there was always a reason I had to go over there and see him for something. So I tell people I had my first fortified lemonade in the private bar at the Baralaba Hotel. So never, the best I could say is never lose sight of community. Be absolutely serious about what you do and committed. And I don't need to add much to that. That's a fairly full house when you start to do practice.
I'd like to say a very big thank you to you for being on this podcast. You've been very generous with your time, and I've appreciated all of the stories that you've shared and, the insight that you give us and the lessons that we can pass on to the next generation.
Nyree, can I tell you just one other story?
Of course.
During my early days of Masonic business, I joined our lodge here at with Abbott in 1960, and over time and that rattles up. But you talk about confidence and mixing with people. I would have been the most petrified fella when we go visiting. Is usually a toast to the visitors, just everything. And I could bet you pounds to peanuts that when I visited in many lodges around here, I would be asked to reply on behalf of the visitor, and I was petrified. But Masonic business got me out of that and got me to speak with confidence, etc. So that's one good thing that happened to me private.
I've learned a lot recently about the Masonic Lodge and Freemasonry, and I am absolutely impressed. And I think it's got so many, like that movement's got so many values that can help our young men in today's society. And, I mean, it's I think 600 years old is what I was told recently, but, adapting and modernizing, but maintaining that structure of, support for each other and guidance and leadership and mentorship. And it's such an incredible movement.
It's mentorship, for myself, I was a little bit different, but for those that were coming on, some of those fellas were only left school probably in grade 4 or 5, and they joined our lodge. The most rewarding thing was for them to volunteer to do a little piece of ritual. And I tell you what, it is absolute character building to see what that does. And that's been a big part of it. Well as, those who are in it would have to think the same.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
And so if you're in it long enough, you get to do a job for the Grand Master that is so good thing to do.
So many rich experiences across your life. It's been amazing to listen to them all, and I am very thankful that you've given me so much of your time and so many of your stories.
I hope I've said enough to get a bit of a grasp of where we come from, only here, but most places. There are people out there who do enormous things to keep their town livable.
Absolutely.
No, it's been a pleasure. I got to know of you through Wallace Taylor.
Yes, he's one of my favourite people.
He says to me, I've given your name to Nyree Johnson. She wants to talk to you. I'm so pleased we've had some time, Nyree.
Yes. I'm very pleased that Wal connected us, and I'm very, very lucky to have heard so many of your stories. And, third time lucky for us catching up. It's been a bit of a mission to make this work, but I'm, very happy that we've
Good on you, Nyree. Look, it's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I'm so pleased.
Yeah, thank you so much.